I was asked about part three of Beyond the Rope by Karlous Hill, and we do have to finish this one. Again, just to bring it up to speed, Karlous Hill is doing I guess it's a historiography of lynching. And what's troubling about it is he starts off talking about vigilantism within the black community involving lynching. What he doesn't distinguish is lynching was the punishment of the day. That was what Europeans did. In the early 1800s, that was how Mississippi became known as Lynchville. And it wasn't due to them lynching black people, even though it later, kept that connotation because it continued with black people. But it was known for that. It was the lynching state is what it was known as. Not Lynchville. It was called the lynching state in 1837. And that was actually cited in a book entitled Worse Than Slavery by Oshinsky. And that was just to show, and that was one criticism I had of Karlous Hill's book, is because it didn't talk about how prevalent lynching was at the time. It made it appear as though black people were lynching, and then white people took it from black people, and then black people reacted when white people started doing it to black people. That's not what happened. Each community, North America, or the quote, America, that was their, that was pretty much how you got disciplined in those days. It was either you got put in the little deal where they clip your head and your hands and you get put out for a public display, you got lynched, or you got lashings. But what they said was the pillory, which was the deal that your head and hands got in, everybody public shaming. The hot iron, where they branded you like if you stole something, they would burn the tea in your face. Or the halter, or the whipping post. So those were the four punishments primarily that they had. Lynching was very, very popular. So that was something that I think in Karlous Hill's desire to bring out some, have a pillar of historiography or a level added into the history of lynching, that he wanted to add this new component, that he overshot it to really make it appear as though a new level was being formed when it wasn't. Okay, that was something that was bad, of the many things that was bad about it. But ultimately, he goes through he described the primary sources that he went through, that blacks had created a perspective of either describing black lynched bodies as either a victim, or as a hero, where they fought for their rights and ended up being lynched, unfortunately, but they were heroes because these were the people that stood up that just wouldn't take it. The problem is that he made it seem as though there was a clandestine plan, a overt misrepresentation of facts, as opposed to a sincere perspective saying, no, these people didn't do what they were supposed to do. These people they didn't do what they said, what they were blamed for doing. These people were victims of terror. They weren't opponents. These are people that were being terrorized. They were victims. In the cases of, like, perfect example, Malcolm X's father was murdered. He was not lynched, but he was murdered. He was given a heroic memory because he was known for standing up against white supremacy and or white racism, because you got to remember, white supremacy, if something is supreme, it cannot be bad. So that's a whole nother thing. But that would be, in fact, heroic, but not necessarily a clandestine, organized, fictitious agenda that is being created by black people to use to their social benefit. And that is what Karlous Hills is implying. What else? I ended my review stating that I do think that people should read this book. I think people should read this book because you need to know what people are thinking, especially so-called scholarship, especially so-called black scholarship, because these are going to be the questions as scholars we're going to need to answer. People are going to say, when we make when we take a particular position, these are going to be the references that are going to be brought up to say, okay, well, this person said this and this person is black, so why thus and so forth. Now, we may not have the answers, but we need to know the perspectives exist. We have a lot of people that are so American that cognitive dissonance is not limited to the descendants of white supremacy. There are some people who don't want to believe that America is based on white supremacy and capitalism. There are people who believe I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Perhaps this is not the way it was. Perhaps some people feel that they are so far removed from mass incarceration that they don't see the connection of mass incarceration to the war on drugs, to Jim Crow, to slavery. If we're going to jump over convict leasing and then slavery. So I do recommend that you read the book. It's a short read. It's an easy read. And pretty much if you read the preface, that's the story. I don't know about buying the book. If you can read it online, I would definitely do that. I will probably grow into contacting the authors, because most of them are university professors, and contacting them and letting them know about the review that I did of their book, not just the physical review that I did, maybe even send it to them, and invite them to look at the review on the channel. I know a lot of times people use that for their CVs, so maybe I'll add that, and that'll probably get some scholastic discourse, especially with people I disagree with a great deal. So again, this is the final number 3 of Beyond the Rope, Karlous Hill.